There's a discomfort inside you that never speaks, only weighs. It's not anxiety, not stress. It's something deeper, something darker. It's the silent ache of having allowed too much for too long. You've lowered your head so many times, you've forgotten what it feels like to hold it high. And the worst part, you think it's normal. You were taught to swallow your truth, to endure, to keep the peace, to be good, patient, understanding. They promised if you followed these rules, everything would be fine. They lied. What really happened? You became a sponge, absorbing what others couldn't handle, carrying what wasn't yours to hold, accepting behaviors that chipped away at your worth, slowly, silently. And now, when something makes you uncomfortable, you second-guess it. You wonder, am I just being too sensitive? Spoiler alert, you're not. That feeling, that tightness in your chest, that quiet scream inside your mind, that's not sensitivity, it's intuition. It's your psyche calling for help. Carl Jung knew this long before we did. He spent his life diving into the depths of the human soul, and what he discovered was terrifying. Most suffering doesn't come from massive trauma. It comes from what we allow, from the poisons we normalize, from the boundaries we abandon, from the emotional termites we invite into our lives. And worst of all, it happens in silence. This video is not meant to comfort you. It's meant to wake you up. You're about to confront 7 behaviors Jung deemed absolutely unacceptable, not because they're morally wrong, but because they are psychic sabotage. They rot your identity, they drain your strength, and, worst of all, they do it with a smile. These behaviors don't arrive as monsters. They come as love, as friendship, as concern, as humor. If you're not paying attention, you'll welcome them in, and they'll stay. Because once accepted, they repeat. And with every repetition, a piece of you dies. That's why you're watching this. Not out of curiosity, not for entertainment. You're here because something inside you knows. Enough. You can't keep swallowing this. You can't keep shrinking. You need to name what's been hurting you. You need to stop allowing what breaks you. And let's be honest, this isn't just about what others do to you. It's about what you have done to yourself. Because sometimes you've repeated these behaviors too, and that's why they cut so deep. Not because you're a bad person, but because no one taught you to recognize the violence when it wears a friendly face. Today, that changes. You'll see each behavior. You'll understand Jung's warning. And once you do, you'll never look at yourself or others the same way again. Yes, it may hurt, but this kind of pain, it sets you free. Are you ready? Because once this starts, there's no going back. What seems small today can destroy you tomorrow. It starts with one gesture, a phrase, a joke, a comment, and if you let it slide, that becomes the norm. You stop being yourself. You become what others mold in silence. Jung called this the silent enemy, covert emotional manipulation. It doesn't arrive with chains. It arrives with kindness, with phrases like, "I'm only saying this because I care. If you really loved me, you would. You're too sensitive." And then you start to question everything. First the situation, then your perception, then yourself. Because a true manipulator doesn't force you. They simply make you doubt. Until you do their work for them. This isn't love. It isn't friendship. It's control. And what's worse, it usually comes from someone you love, which makes it feel like loyalty, but it's actually self-abandonment. Jung said it bluntly. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And what better way to avoid themselves than by shaping you? They shape your mind in silence. And when they're sure you won't push back, when they've tested your boundaries and found them soft, they escalate. It's no longer enough to twist your thoughts. Now they need to twist your image, but not through confrontation, through laughter, because when control no longer satisfies them, humiliation comes next, but not direct. It's never direct. It's a harmless joke, a comment tossed casually, a smile with a blade behind it. Everyone laughs, except you. And still, you force a smile, because deep down you know the truth. If you don't play along, you'll be labeled bitter, too sensitive, no sense of humor. That's the trap. If you react, you're the problem. If you stay quiet, you become the joke. Each laugh slices your self-esteem. Each joke cements a new role for you, the weak one, the outsider, the target. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He said, "The unconscious does not differentiate between play and reality. What's repeated becomes real. The brain accepts it, and your identity shifts to fit the ridicule." But here's the darkest truth. Those who humiliate others this way, they are often the most insecure. Their laughter is camouflage, a mask hiding deep inadequacy. They cut others down because it's the only way they feel taller. But you are not here to be a punching bag for those who fear their own shadow. And if you allow it, if you accept these jokes without resistance, you unlock something even more dangerous. Doubt. Doubt in your own perception. Doubt in your memories. Doubt in what you know is real. This next behavior, it's psychological warfare. Gaslighting. They twist your words. They deny what happened. They accuse you of imagining things. "I never said that." You're being dramatic. You always make everything a problem. And the worst part? You start believing them, not because you're weak, but because your mind tries to survive. You adapt to their lie. Jung called this the most dangerous betrayal, self-betrayal. The moment when your intuition whispers, "This is wrong," and you silence it. And once you stop trusting yourself, you're lost. You don't know if you're overreacting or finally reacting. This is how you become a prisoner, not of chains, but of confusion. And once they break your inner compass, they move in for the next blow. Systematic emotional invalidation. You open up. You express something that hurt, and they discard it. You're too emotional. It's not a big deal. You're making things complicated. Every time they say this, what they're really saying is, "Wow, your emotions are inconvenient." And so you shrink, you fall silent, you bottle everything up, you become small, not because you are, but because someone made you believe it was safer. Jung warned us. What we repress does not disappear. It returns later disguised as anxiety, rage, or sadness. Every ignored emotion becomes a weight. It drains you, it numbs you, and the saddest part, you're no longer yourself. You become who they need you to be, silent, confused, compliant. But it doesn't stop there. Because after manipulation, ridicule, distortion, and dismissal comes erasure. Then comes the coldest strike, not loud, not violent, but deadly in its precision. Silent contempt, a glance that cuts, a message left unanswered, a deliberate absence that feels louder than any scream. They don't insult you, they don't confront you, they just erase you, but you're still there, existing, screaming on the inside, watching them punish you with their silence. Every second that ticks by without a word, it's not just time, it's another wound, another cut in your desperate need for connection. And this is where many finally break. Because contempt doesn't need to explain itself, it just drags you under. It makes you feel invisible, insignificant, like you don't even exist unless someone else decides you do. And if you've reached this point, if you've endured manipulation, mockery, gaslighting, invalidation, and now contempt, without ever fighting back, then something inside you has already changed. You're no longer whole. You no longer trust. You no longer speak your truth. You don't feel the same anymore. Do you see what's happening? Carl Jung said it plainly. What you deny subjugates you. What you accept transforms you. And everything you've tolerated until now, every insult, every silence, every dismissal, that's what's been enslaving you. But we're not finished yet. 2 more behaviors remain, and they're the most dangerous of all, not because of what they do to you, but because of what they make you become. Yes, we've talked about what they do, how others twist, mold, and manipulate your perception. But now we step into darker territory, because the next 2 behaviors don't just harm you, they infect you. They turn your pain into patterns, your survival into self-destruction. Here comes the 6th, the normalization of sacrifice as a virtue. This one is tricky because it wears a saint's mask. It looks noble. It sounds admirable. You've been taught since childhood that love means self-denial, that maturity means putting others first, that giving up your needs is a sign of strength, and slowly, piece by piece, you begin to disappear, to put yourself last, to believe your wants are selfish, your needs too loud, your voice unnecessary. But here's the brutal truth. Not everything done in the name of love is healthy. Not every piece you protect is real. Sometimes your sacrifice, it's not love, it's fear. It's the habit of not fully existing. Jung spoke of the self as the center of our psyche. And every time you abandon your center, every time you push down your desires, ignore your boundaries, mute your instincts, you become fragmented, a scattered echo of who you once were. And what's worse, the world applauds you for it. They call you selfless, easy to be around, always there. But no one asks, when was it your turn? Because perpetual sacrifice, that's not love. That's self-erasure. And the more you identify with it, the more you lose yourself, your voice, your needs, your core. And when someone loses themselves completely, when they stop having a center, a boundary, a name, they fall into the final behavior, accepting contempt as the price for belonging. This is the bottom. This is when you've absorbed so much abuse, so much silence, so much mockery, so much distortion, that you finally decide, this is the best I can get. You accept crumbs and call it connection. You tolerate being ignored and call it compromise. You justify being mistreated and call it understanding. And the most devastating part, you convince yourself it's your fault, that you deserve this, that you're too much, or not enough, that you're lucky someone is even putting up with you. Jung called this state psychic death, a total disconnect from yourself. You no longer resist, you no longer question, you no longer feel. You don't live, you survive. And survival in this form means adapting to mistreatment as if it were normal. It means believing that contempt is the cost of being seen. That being ignored is better than being truly alone. That rejection is the price of staying in the room. But it's not. Nothing is worth betraying yourself every day. Yes, loneliness hurts. But being surrounded by people who drain you, who shrink you, who erase you. That's hell. You're not here to beg for inclusion. You're here to belong to yourself, to take up space, to stop asking for permission, to rebuild what you've lost, starting now. Because if you've made it this far, then deep down, you already know. Feel every word, because these aren't just behaviors, they're scars. Maybe not all 7, maybe not all the time, but deep down, you know. You've worn some of them, you've lived through them, you've swallowed your voice just to keep the peace. You've made yourself small in spaces where you were meant to stand tall. Now you know. You can no longer pretend. 7 behaviors, 7 poisons, 7 silent ways you gave others permission to destroy you. Carl Jung didn't write these as a checklist. He didn't write to guide the masses. He wrote as a warning, like a siren sounding in the fog, echoing through the unconscious. So the real question now is this: what will you do with what you now know? Because here's the twist, the one that separates awareness from action. Most people, even after seeing the truth, after feeling it down to their bones, will do absolutely nothing. They'll return to the same toxic spaces, the same suffocating relationships, the same old habit of betraying themselves. Why? Because it's easier. Because staying asleep hurts less than staring into the void of authenticity. But you're different. You've made it this far. You've stayed through every word, every silence, every shadow. You're not like the rest. There's a fire beginning to burn inside you, isn't there? That small, wild voice saying, "No more." You may not know the steps yet. You may not have the map. But you know with raw instinct, something has to change. And that's where it begins. Not with blame, not with bitterness, not by becoming the victim or the judge, but by doing the hardest thing of all, being brutally honest with yourself. Where have you tolerated what you shouldn't? Who have you made endless excuses for? What parts of yourself have you silenced just to belong? This is not just a video. This is a mirror. A mirror without filters, without distortion. And if it feels unbearable to look at, it's not because the mirror is broken. It's because you've spent too long not seeing your true reflection. And now, listen very closely. If you choose to change, if you finally decide to stop allowing these behaviors, be ready to lose. Yes. You'll lose people, you'll lose old routines, you'll lose illusions. But don't grieve, because what you'll actually be losing was already killing you slowly. Every loss will be a cleansing, every goodbye a doorway, and what remains after, that will be real. That will be yours. That will be unshakable. Carl Jung didn't write to comfort. He wrote to wake us up, and today, you woke up. Now don't close your eyes again. Don't unsee what you've finally seen. Don't betray the version of yourself that's just starting to breathe. Because here's the truth no one dares to say. The ultimate power is not that the world finally respects you. It's that you no longer need it. If this video stirred even a single part of you, don't let it fade. Drop this in the comments. What you tolerate buries you. Not for me, for you. To declare that from this moment forward, you will no longer smile while swallowing poison. You will no longer trade your peace for approval. And if you want more content like this, raw, real, unfiltered, where psychology becomes the sword that sets you free, subscribe, not to support me, but to protect yourself. Every video from here on will be one more bullet against everything that's quietly killing you. Hit the button. Turn on the bell. There's no false motivation here, only truth. And in a world drowning in noise, truth is gold. Now close this video. But don't shut off the fire it lit inside of you. Walk differently. See the world through new eyes. Tolerate less. Live more. Because remember, the one who truly wakes up never falls asleep again until the next shadow appears or until you finally choose to face it.